The Final Frontier. These are your adventures as you explore, seeking out new life and civilizations, expanding your borders and exploiting the resources you find, befriending allies, or exterminating the foes that get in your way.
Contact detected entering sector. Configuration unknown. Assessing. Initiating countermeasures.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. Today on this pre-Christmas Eve broadcast. Welcome to today on Saturday at 11 o'clock. If it is your first time here at Star Trek New Worlds, we are a turn-based strategy game, or rather we are playing a turn-based strategy game that we bring here on live. We bring it here live to you online today on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. Goodness gracious. You'd think I would have gotten that straight after more than a couple years of doing this. Anywho, yes, we play this game inspired by the rules of Federation Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau. The magic of the map that you will see here momentarily, goodness gracious, is presented through the magic of Vassal. So, what are we talking about today? Well, my goodness, I just seem to be having all sorts of issues with being able to get words out of my mouth. It must be the eggnog in my eggnog-infused coffee, which I am sipping right here. Let me take a quick swig to reset, lubricate, stimulate, and come right back at you with full stereo effect and Dolby surround sound. 1 second. There we go. There we go. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Today we are talking about the fact that the Gorn have joined the Splintered Will big map. That's right. Today we're talking about Splintered Will, one of 3 concurrent campaigns in our Event Horizons series of campaigns. And in Splintered Will, we have the little maps and the big map. The Gorn have now joined the big map. There's only 2 factions that are still on their own little maplets. Every other faction has now joined the big kahuna. Now, because they've joined the big map, this has kind of thrown a topsy-turvy on the Eastern Front. We knew the Gorn were there because, folks will chatter on Discord, but we didn't know exactly where the borders would be, how that would balance out, and, of course, who's who in the zoo. So, now that we have the Gorn on the map, we'll explore what that means for all the players on the Eastern Front. Also, we have news from our embedded reporters that things are changing on the western edge of the galaxy. Conflict between the Federation Klingons and the Tholians, not that the Federation and the Klingons are fighting each other, but their conflict with the Tholians has changed substantially, and we will get into that momentarily. But before we do that, let's jump into the chitty chat and say hello to our good friends who have joined us here live today. Okay, so we've got Jim, boom shakalaka. Eugene, happy Festivus to all. May your grievances be aired with gusto and feats of strength enjoyable. Bill, Holo motos, Lon Jerome, time to get this party started. Whoop whoop. That's right. We've got Happy Christmas to everyone, Jim says. What is that? I can't. Especially the words. Hitlerite. No, you are not. Okay. Goodness. Is that even a word, Hitlerite? Goodness gracious. Especially the Hitlerite Hicks. Okay. Anyways, Chuck says, hello all. Happy Festivus Maximus. Can't Be Petty is in the house. Lord Lawless. Whoop whoop. Lon Jerome is here. Jim Petty, Charles Muskrat Lawless, and the big map, baby. Woo! That's right. So we're back on track here in Stereo Sound Dolby 2.1 surround. Unless you have a 7.1 setup at your home. We'll see. All right, let's jump into the map, talk about what's going on. But before we do that, we're going to talk about the numbers, or shall we say, the stats. All right, this is turn. Oh, coffee was just fired. We'll get back to coffee here in a second. I'll go back to the chat and we can talk about caffeinated goodness. Okay, so let's talk about the numbers here. This, as you can see below me, is the current stats for turn 49 in the game. Now, we're going to go from top to bottom according to the list, but again, these aren't necessarily ranked in according to any particular thing, but we will see. I just caught something now that's pretty funny. Okay, the Paravians turn 49. Their economy is at 109.6. You might be saying to yourself, Tony, 2 weeks ago, the economies were not this high. What is going on? Well, turn 49 is a milestone year because in this game, planets within a certain range of your homeworld will grow, economically upgrade, you might say, from one size class to another. Colonies will grow to developing planets, developing to minors, minors to mediums, and mediums to majors. And this all happens within the context of the game. Now, there is a chance that it may happen and a chance that it may not. But as you will see, some planets have grown across the map and therefore growing the economies of those various players. So the Paravians are now at 109.6, just under the 110 mark for their economy. You can see their economy has gone up by 7.2 since our last live stream. They have 109 ships in their navy, improving that by 14, with an attack factor of 305 and defense 492, an improvement of 40 and 60 respectively. They've built 3 more YBSs for a total of 23. 1 YDK is in the house. And as you can see here, our GM is having fun with us by saying that the intelligence level with the Paravians is low. Take that for what you will. I mean, they are chickens in another form. Moving on to the squids of the game, the hydrants. Now, to be fair, hydrants are in the normal Federation and Empire game squid-like, so to speak. Not squids in this particular incarnation, but nonetheless, the hydrants turn 49. They are at 113.8, their economy, an improvement of 10. They have 64 ships in their fleet, building 1 more since last time to this time. And you can see it was an improvement of 4 attack and 6 defense respectively. Looks like they built a cruiser. So their total attack factors are 137 and 306. They've been busy building bases, though. You can see they've got 31 YBSs in play, improving that by 5. Still 8 YDKs, not improving that by any significant amount. And they are intelligence level 5, which means they're on the big map. Including the Paravians, even though their intelligence level is low, anyone on the map that is intelligence level 5 is on the big map. You'll see that in a momento. The Remans, neighbors to the Hydrants, are at 123. Ooh, that is a big number. 123, I believe that puts them at number 3 on the economic tier list. That's nice big. They improved their economy by 12 EP. Looks like they were one of the biggest gainers of planetary growth. They have a total of 146 ships in their navy, improving that by 22 ships over the past couple turns. They have a total attack factor of 434 and 647 respectively, bumping that up by 87 and 104. Wow. They've also been building they have built 4 new YBSs for a total of 16. They've improved their YDK count to 4, improving it by 1, and of course, intelligence level 5. The Klingons in the game, having just dealt with the Tholians most recently, have an economy of 125.6, putting them at the number 2 economic spot on the map. They have almost 126 EP. They have improved that by 7 over the past couple turns, so their planetary growth kicked in, perhaps not as much as some other players. They have 152 ships in their fleet, putting them at the number 2 spot for size of their fleet. They have improved that by 26 ships with 352 attack, 608 defense. Interesting to note, the Klingons have less defense factors than the Remans and less attack factors than the Remans, but more ships. Interesting to note. Remans, I would say, are a little OP when it comes to their Y-era ships. They're pretty good. So that might be a factor in play. You'll see that the Klingons have a total of 32 YBSs. That puts them at the most number of bases, or at least YBSs on the map. They are tied for total base count with the Hydrons. Note this, 32 YBSs to the Hydron 31, but they have 7 YDKs versus the Hydron's 8. So total base count overall is tied, but they've been building for sure. They've improved, obviously, their base count, YDK count by 1, intelligence level 5. The Kzinti at 97.5. They are the lowest economy in the game as it stands today. They had their economy grow by 6 EP. They have 68 ships in their fleet, bigger than the Hydrons, that's for sure. 68 ships in their fleet, an improvement of 11. They have 156 attack, 300 defense, improving their attack and defense by 24 and 41 respectively. They have 8 YBSs, and it would seem as though that's a decrease of 2. What happened there? I don't know. They have 6 YDKs, and there is an improvement of 2. So maybe they improved, or they upgraded 2 of their YBSs into YDKs, and that's where that delta came from. They are an intelligence level 1, meaning they are not on the big map. Federation now at 107 economy, improving it by 5. They have 124 ships in their fleet, an improvement of 12. 257 attack, 492 defense, improving it by 53 and 71 respectively. They have 29 YBSs out and about, an improvement of 3, and 8 YDKs. Looks like 8's the magic number. Interesting to note. They have improved that number by 1. Intelligence level 5. The Lyrans, these are the big boys in the game with a 126 economy. They are the leader by 0.4 as far as economies go. In the game, they have 173 ships out and about. Let me retrace my steps slightly. 126 economy, an improvement of almost 5.4 EP. Looks like they were one of the slowest growing, so to speak, in the planetary growth phase. 173 ships, an improvement of 23. They have 390 attack, 680 defense, the biggest defensive factor in the game, an improvement of 50 and 73 respectively. They have 14 YBSs. They are on a building spree, having built 5 new ones over the past couple turns. 8 YDKs, no improvement there, and intelligence level 5. The Gorn, third from the bottom here, the Gorn at 112.8 puts their economy right smack in that sweet spot where you see most of the other folks in the sort of 105 to 115 range. They have improved their economy by 12. They are one of the biggest winners, so to speak, from the economic growth. They have 123 ships in their battle fleet, an improvement of 3, 257 attack, an improvement of 18, and 468 defense, an improvement of 9. They have 20 YBSs, or Y-era base stations. That's a decrease of 1, but they've improved their YDK count by 2 up to 6. They are intelligence level 5. Big milestone there. They are now on the big map. The Carnivon, so the Carnivon are at 106.1 in their economy. Seems as though either the GM didn't add anything here on the Delta. Interesting to note. I think this is a super secret thing. The Carnivon are one of the factions we haven't really seen in some of the little maplets and so on. I think because the Carnivon player is keeping their cards close to their chest. The Carnivon at 106.1, 71 ships in their fleet, 181 attack, 336 defense, 27 YBSs, 4 YDKs, intelligence level 3. Last person on the list is the ISC, the Interstellar Concordium. They are at 108 economy, an improvement of 9 over the past couple turns. 106 is their total ship count, with an improvement of 16, 316 attack, 524. Wow. 524 defense factor, an improvement of 52 and 75 respectively. They only have 12 YBSs in play and 7 YDKs, although the YDK count is improving by 1. They are intelligence level 3. I'm just noting now, as I'm sort of skimming through this, the Carnivon are still tracking at turn 47. It would seem that our Carnivon player is a couple turns behind. We'll get into what is going on with there. Perhaps real life is getting in the way. Now, our Carnivon player is a very talented, knowledgeable, FNE rules kind of guy. So I'm sure it's just a matter of getting back on the horse over the holiday season and catching up with the rest of us. Big thing to note there, though, between the Carnivon and everybody else, the Carnivon's 106.1 does not factor in any economic growth. So they have not done the calculation for their planetary growth. So expect that number to bump up in our next live stream when we cover Splintered Will again. All right. Let's, I see there's lots of chit chat going on here. Let's jump back in there and see what they all have to say. All right, so let's get right into the fact that there was a coffee fired before, just as I was transitioning there. So let's talk about coffee real quick. You'll see in between me and the chat, there is that QR code. And of course, down in the corner, there is the support us at coffee.com/newworlds. If you are so inspired, you may head over to that link or use your phone to hit the QR code, and you can send us a photon fire of coffee goodness our way, helping us stay lubricated, motivated, and stimulated to be able to give you the latest and greatest news from the Star Trek New Worlds universe. Of course, if you are more of a monthly membership kind of person, you can also join us at one of our tiers at that link, including the Coffee and Discord tier, where you can join us on our Discord channel and partake in our witty banter back and forth. And just recently, for example, last night, we had a very in-depth discussion about fighting retreats in the rules of Federation and Empire. So you can join us for all that banter. And of course, if you are a coffee supporter, then you get first dibs on joining our next campaign when the next campaign starts. So if you are so inclined, you may head that way. And if I look over at the chat, it says that it was a mystery antagonist that fired that first coffee today. Our goal today, different from previous live streams, we incrementally stretch out these goals and see how things go. So today, in our last live stream before the beginning of our festive season, our goal today is not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5. Magic number 5 for those short circuit fans. Number 5 is alive, and if you can help us get to there, that would be fantastic. We are 20% towards that goal, 1/5 of the way. So please feel free to don't hold back those photon torpedoes and fire your way to our coffee goodness as I take a quick sip and lubricate for our next round of banter. Oh, yeah. Today's coffee is infused with a little eggnog milk alternative, we'll call it. So it's got a very distinct festive flavor. Jumping into the chat here real quick, though, before we jump into the map, I'm noticing some, as I pop out the chat here, so it's a little bit easier to look at. Let's see what folks have to say. So we have, Lon Jerome saying that he is mayhem. I mean, both in name and practice, I suppose. Our coffee and our mystery antagonist fired their coffee, and Bill Smith was talking about pew pew in the house, which is our GM Daniel for our New Horizons campaign. Lord Lawless is meowing his way through the chat, and Jim, the grumpy Hawkman, of course. You know, Hawkman was probably the weakest of all the Justice League folks in the DCEU. I mean, Black Adam, he got his wings handed to him, so to speak, by The Rock. I mean, depends on what you like, I suppose. I always love giving Jim a good jab. But to all fairness, one of my favorite Primarchs in the 40k universe is the winged Blood Angels Primarch himself, Sanguinius. So he's certainly an S tier Primarch when we evaluate those. So whether it's Hawkman or Sanguinius, I mean, pick your poison. It's good to go. All right, gotta gang up and knock down the relentless Riemann Rise. Oh, I love that alliteration, Lord Lawless. I will have to discuss that. Says Mr. Biggest Economy and Fleet on the Map, tongue in cheek. Just offering to share the spoils of inevitable Lyran invasion, Lord Lawless says. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, all right. That'll be an interesting chit-chat. Eben, which is our Carnivon player, just noting here that he is behind, busy at work, so work and real life does get in the way. Think Bryn Blessed in Flash Gordon's 1980, Tony. Yes! So it's such a campy and amazing film. Flash Gordon, I mean, who doesn't love Flash Gordon? He is, why am I not seeing, okay, anyway, so Flash Gordon is particularly fantastic as a film. I really do love that movie. 1980s Bond before Pierce. What was his name? Oh, my goodness. Why am I forgetting his name? He came after Roger Moore, but before Pierce. Timothy Dalton. Timothy Dalton is in that movie, and he is epic. Like, just campy, like dripping campy epic in that movie. It's so good. All right. I'm noticing, yes, Lyran's got screwed on planetary growth. Now with 6 majors, they're blocked from growth and have to build even more PGBs. The Riemann are holding up a convoy full of catnip for the Lyrans in an attempt to settle them down. George is sharing with us. So for some reason, that's weird. That's not showing up in my chat on YouTube, but I'm seeing it on the chat there. So interesting, these little changes when it comes to the tech. Okay, let's dive into the map. We're going to start off with speaking of kitty cats, we'll start off with the Kzinti. Let's slide on over. All right, the kitty cats are in the house. So we've already covered fleet cap and economy, but just to be able to trust and confirm that those numbers are correct, you'll see here that the Kzinti are at 97.5. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. The Kzinti will hit their own once they come into the big map, when and if that ever happens. Well, it will happen eventually, but when they join the big map, I anticipate some big changes happening for the Kzinti. But as you can see here, they are at 97.5. Their fleet summary, as was discussed moments ago, they have a total of 68 ships, 156 attack, 300 defense. Fleet cap's 301, so there might be a crippled ship floating around there somewhere. We can see here there is I would argue, two big things of note. One, the Romulan interaction. You can see that there's this frigate with an R&D team heading towards something over here. But I'm noticing no diplomat exchange, and I would have expected a diplomatic exchange first before R&D teams. But who am I to, get in anybody else's cherry pie, so to speak? Terrible metaphor, on how they deal with non-player characters. However, let's check this out. What is that down there? Now, I don't have any control zones on display yet, but look at what you see down there. I see, not only is it a destroyer, boom! That coffee just got fired. Photon, Hydron Disabled Veterans Fund. Ouch! Oh my goodness. Don't worry. There'll be lots of combat coming. This is, after all, the calm before the storm. But that's the big map. We'll get to that in just a moment. Don't you wait. Don't you wait. Just you wait. It's coming your way. Quick sip in celebration of that coffee goodness fired our way. Here we go. All right, 40% of the way on to our goal. Let's talk about these Tholians. They have a battle station, 6 fighter factors with a 12 attack, 12 defense, and ground bases with, there's 3 of them there, looks like. Oh, no, it's just 1 battalion with 3 attack, 3 defense, and 6 fighter factors. Looks like if I take away the ships and bases real quick, there is a minor planet right there. One might say ripe for the taking. We'll have to talk about that in a moment. But as you can see here, minorly defended with just a smattering of ships. Depending on what you bring to the occasion, you might be able to take it out. There is a Kzinti home fleet nearby, and in previous live streams, we did see that the Kzinti had not an insignificant number of ships for their size. So let's take a quick look at home fleet and see, oh, damn. It looks like the Kzinti are thinking the same thing we are, and they're bringing the heat to the party. We've got not 1 but 2 YDNs, so command factor and, of course, big hitters. 6 attack, 8 defense, which are pretty good for the Y era. That's the best ship that most folks have. Then we have 4 YCCs at a 4 attack, 6 defense. We have a number of 4 strike cruisers with 3 attack, 6 defense. A light cruiser in the house, and then a boatload of these frigates. 5, 10, oh no, there's 6 there, so 5. Let's not make it easy for Tony. No. 5, 6 is 11. Another 6 is 17. Another 5 is 22. And another 5, oh my God, another 5 is 27. Like I say, don't make it easy for me. Goodness gracious. So 27 frigates, that's a lot. A commando frigate, 2 prime teams, and a boatload of heavy hitter ships. So overall, this is way more than enough to be able to take out this particular Tholian ship, and and certainly bring the pain. The question is, as the Paravians have proven for the rest of the players, what happens after? Tholians don't typically sit back and play nice after you attack them. So what's going to happen on the counterpunch, and how are the Kzinti going to react? There are some distinct benefits, however, to the fact that the Kzinti will be attacking, assuming that they will be, attacking the Tholians. 1, if you attack the Tholians, that instantly gives you cred with the Romulans. And depending on what your intelligence level is, and I believe it was 3 when we were looking at the table for the Kzinti, if the Kzinti are at 3 and they attack the Tholians, then they will jump up, especially if they take the planet. If they take the planet, they will hit intelligence level 5, I believe, because they'll have gained the planet, which will give them 1, and because they're attacking the Tholians, the Romulans, they'll increase their intelligence level with the Romulans. So I believe that will get them from 3 to 5 in short order, not including the R&D team, which is on its way up to the Romulans as we speak. So one way or another, it would seem as though the Kzinti are on the highway to, or rather they are on the on-ramp to joining the big map in short order. So we'll see how that evolves over the coming turns. But this is the big play, I would say, that we're waiting for. Home fleet and the attack on the Tholians. So quick request for our GM, Robin, when you do, assuming you do that combat, can we get a play-by-play of how that goes down? Decisions made, casualties taken, and so on. It would be great to see the impact of a Y fleet versus that and how that all goes down. And then, of course, the intelligence consequences as a result. Great thing to talk about in perhaps the new year. All right, so that's exciting. What about the next factor or the next faction on the board, which is the ISC? Now, the ISC are really interesting because they're on the, you can see this red line. I've zoomed out and scrolled down so that you can see that red line on the map. That indicates for us that they are on the bottom of the map. And you'll see that when we get to the big chart or the big map, you'll see what that means. So interesting because they can't go south, they must go north, and they've encountered the Romulans. Okay, so let's zoom up here and just see what the Romulans have. I'm going to take away ships and bases real quick so we can see what's going on. The Romulans have quite a richly dense section of space here. Obviously a major planet, but 1, 2, 3 miners, 3 colonies, and a smattering of resources. So considering the footprint there, that's a very rich deposit of resources. But, far being the capitalist that I am, what do we see going forward? We can see that the ISC are building bases. You can see there's this base right here that is currently under construction. And the base is constructed, but they're upgrading it to a YDK as they're moving into this territory. What does that mean? Could be one of two things. One, they're building the YDK so that they can start trade routes with from a YDK to a YDK, they can start a trade route with the Romulans. That's one possible option. Two, they are taking a book from our previous campaign, the New Worlds campaign, where you build, you take advantage of the good graces of another faction, build bases and infrastructure in their space, and then when the time is right, go to war and use and leverage that supply chain to be able to be highly successful in enemy territory or behind enemy lines. So it could be 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, or maybe both. Who knows? It'll be very interesting to see how that sort of goes forward. So very interesting to see how that's developing. We'll see how that goes. The ISC as a whole, if we bring back the ships, we'll see here we've got quite a significant collection of ships. The ISC First Fleet and Second Fleet. So let's pull up ISC fleets. We've got the first ISC fleet, which I'm assuming based on the counter, that's ISC First Fleet, and then we've got Second Fleet. So ISC Second Fleet. So these are the 2 fleets that are right here, along with a tug, which is building or upgrading that YDK, a YCOM, which ties in with what we were talking about with regards to creating a trade route, and an escort destroyer. So we've got, between the 2 fleets combined, we have 2 CCs, or command ships, command cruisers, a total of 5, 3 in one, 2 in another heavy cruisers. We have 3 in one, 2 in another, 5 light cruisers, a destroyer and a frigate in each. So a good collection of ships. Will it be enough to do any significant damage? You can see that, generally speaking, the Romulans have a smattering of ships supporting bases and other defensive structures here as well. So certainly they can, if the IC chose to, they can cause a ruckus, they can stir the pot. I don't know that that particular fleet will be enough to be able to seal the deal, so to speak, with the Romulans. And if they're not looking to do that, but rather just engage in trade, that's probably the more appropriate choice based on the force disposition at this point. If we zoom in a little bit, let's take a look at what's going on here. Like we said, we got the YDK under construction or upgrade there. We've got another YDK here, diplomat en route, it would seem, perhaps to obviously to the Romulans. So they'll try to improve that intelligence level to get up to level 5. We've got another YDK here and over here and over here. So you can see that the ISC are building a layer, or not exactly a Maginot line, but they're definitely drawing a line in the sand of YDKs to the north. Not too much worried about the east or the west, and certainly not the south. They are focusing on their northerly projection to be able to encounter, or potentially encounter, players and or Tholians. Very interesting to note the footprint of the ISC, and they still have not encountered any Tholians. That's okay. They've encountered the Romulans. That'll be more than enough to be able to see what's going on. I see Harold saying, shh. Lord Lawless could create vassal log when then replay it fast with notes to show details of battle. Oh, possibly. Better to tell the story, I say. You Can't Be Betty says, sneaking up to pluck some turkey feathers. Right. So we'll talk about that on the big map here in a momento, and what that looks like as we go forward. But let me slide from one map to another as we head over to the big map. All right. So we're into the chat right now. I'm going to slide over to the big map here in a momento. you'll be able to see. We'll talk about where we think the ISC are and our good plucky friends, the Paravians, and go from there. Let's slide right in right now. Okay. Speaking of the Paravians, so you can see, let's zoom out real quick, and you can see the big map here. That's zooming in, Tony. Let's try zooming out. Yeah, buttons are good. So here's the big picture. Now, there's still a lot to this map that you maybe can't see. So in the top left there, you can see that is the Lyrans and the footprint they have. Then you've got the big red maple leaf in the middle. That is the Remans. The big green blob on the right-hand side, that is the Hydrons. Then down here, the Gorn have popped up onto the map. So the Gorn are the white and red. That is their location relative to everybody else. Note the blue blobs. The blue blobs are the Romulan non-player faction. And the burgundy, which is harder to see, obviously, with some of those red players. The burgundy is the Tholians. As we scroll down here, you can see that the... Wow, that was a big note from the coffee. Photon Fired from Pekka Khan sends a new, improved brand of Paragon and Virtue coffee blended by the master coffee makers of Albatross. Well, as long as there's no down feathers in the brew, cheers to you and your Albatross brew. Oh yeah, eggnog. Who knew I'd like that so much? All right, so you can see the Paravians there underneath the blob of blue. And then over on the left, you've got an orange and a black. So the oranges are alternate Federation colors, so that's the Federation. You've got the Romulan blue blob there, and of course you can see there's burgundy Tholians all around them. And then below, is the Klingon faction, who I could say if we look at all the factions, I would say it's fair that the Klingons probably have the biggest footprint. They have some incursions with and bumping up against some Tholians, but generally speaking, they probably have the biggest footprint, and they are in close competition with the Remans and the Lyrans as far as total footprint or hexes discovered. So very, very interesting to see that. But Paravians are here. So the question is, where are the the ISC, and there's the Carnivons around there somewhere. There's the Carnivons, the Remans, and the Kzinti. I believe, the general consensus is that the ISC are in this black area down below. The ISC are sort of in this southerly area. Whether they're over on the far right of the map or more towards the middle, we don't know. But they're in this neck of the woods somewhere down here. The Kzinti, again, guesstimations, the Kzinti are probably in this pocket right here, in between the Romulan blue blob and sort of the bigger blue blob and the Paravians. If the Kzinti are in this area and the ISC are down below, the guess may be that and then the Carnivon are up here, or maybe, and this I did some countings when I looked at the map. So let's look at the ISC map. I'll zoom out a bit. I thought that maybe the ISC could be somewhere else, but based on where they're positioned and the pulsar positioning and the bottom of the map and all that, they really have to be at the bottom of the map somewhere. That's a good guess. The Kzinti, based on their landmarks, and this is sort of like our guess, based on these positionings, if you look out here, are they around here somewhere? Like this, if I pull it up here, these two sort of telegraph these 2 points here. And so the question is the Kzinti are right here? If the ISC are down below, then that means the Carnivon are in this pocket right here. And so if that's how it all pans out, it'll be very interesting. We haven't seen certain details from the Carnivon. Again, they're kind of catching up here. It'll be interesting to see how they interact and play with the Remans, the Lyrans, the Federation, and how they're sort of establishing themselves. And when those players hit the big map, it'll be very disruptive, or at least influential, as to what the other powers do around them. But speaking of other powers, let's zoom in on the Paravians and start with them on the Eastern Front about what we were talking about there. I'll move my head to the other side so I'm not in the way here. Let me slide over. And we'll talk about the impact the Gorn have on the Paravian position. So we know that the Paravians have been in an all-out assault with the Tholians in the bottom of their empire here. A fight that they picked, by the way, because, chickens will peck. So these guys were picking a fight with the Tholians down here. I believe something around the they will die, or something along those lines. The player that plays the Paravians was very adamant about how he will crush, kill, and destroy the Tholians in his way. All right, so that's what was initially going on here. We have Eagle, Hawk, Vulture, Raptor, and Kestrel fleet, as well as the second expedition. But these are the fleets that are sort of containing this area. Based on the disposition of forces and sort of how that fight was going, the Paravians have now made peace, or at least a concrete ceasefire, with the Tholians. So we can see that we'll just see what the results of their various interactions have been. Eagle fleet. You can see here, I'll put it over here. Boom! Photon fired from Robin J. Hoorah! We're at 80% of our goal. One more to go, and then we have hit the milestone for today. Quick sip of that lubricated, stimulated goodness that is the coffee, imbued with eggnog. Ooh. Sugary goodness. All right. So we have Eagle Fleet. We have the KSS Woody. For all of those who are wondering at home, the Paravian player has chosen to name, for some reason, all of his major dreadnoughts after characters from Toy Story. So I thought when we initially were starting this that there was going to be some other double entendre involved here, but no, it's very family friendly. It's all Toy Story names, so see if you can follow along. We've got the KSS Woody here, which is leading Eagle Fleet. In their fleet, they have a total of 5 YCAs, 3 YCLs, 4 FFs, and another 4, making it a total of 8. They have 3 prime teams, or Raptor teams for the Paravians, embarked in Eagle Fleet. Not a small fleet. Certainly within the Y context, this is a good fleet to have. In addition, they have Hawk Fleet here sitting on a YBS. So let's pull up the Paravian. Why do I have trouble finding it all of a sudden? Paravian. I know it's there. Why? There we are. My eyes, they must be failing me. Hawk. Here we are. Hawk Fleet. Okay, so Hawk Fleet, very similar to what we saw with Eagle Fleet. We have the KSS Jessie. Not Jessie's girl. But we have 4 YCAs, 3 YCLs, another 4 and 4 respectively. So 8 with only 1 prime team in this fleet. So same disposition of fleets. Notice the standard formation here, but 1 instead of 3 Raptor fleets for Hawk versus Eagle. Vulture sitting here again on a YBS, and Vulture is slightly different, it would seem. Well, total of 8 frigates, which is what we saw before, 3 YCLs, 4 YCAs, and their YDN is the KSS Mr. Pickle Pants. Again, these names, what are you going to do? Pickle Pants is leading Vulture Fleet. Your mileage may vary. Raptor Fleet, on the other hand, sitting up here on another YBS. Raptor Fleet has a slightly similar disposition. It is the KSS Buzz, as in Buzz Lightyear. It has not 4, but 3 YCAs, 3 YCLs, and a total of 8 YFFs. So you can see here that this player is certainly standardizing their fleet composition, which is very easy, it makes it easier to be able to manage what is where and what's going on. So I personally really like that sort of standardization. Makes it easier to follow, for sure. But you notice the disposition of those fleets sort of bracketing or containing the Tholian fleet here within their footprint. Now, that said, though, look at what the Tholians have. The Tholians on this hex, and we'll look at the second garrison fleet here as I pull it up here when I find the Tholian counter. second garrison. Okay, we'll put this right here. So they have second garrison, which is this fleet here. A command cruiser, not 7 war cruisers, 4 war cruisers at a 7-7. 2 of these CWVs, Widows, cruiser, Widow. Anyways, there's some kind of carrier with 6 fighter factors, 7 attack, 7 defense. They have escorts, destroyer escorts, and patrol craft escorts for both of those carriers, and then they have a scout as well. In addition to that, they have an FRD, a fleet repair dock. Those bad boys can repair damaged ships above and beyond what the bats is. So when you beat the snot out of the bats, but maybe not take it, they can still repair, maybe not all, but many of the ships that have been damaged and are ready for the next round when they choose to attack, which is, well, it is what it is. They also have a monitor there, which is a slow-moving sort of hard target ship. It's a 10 attack, 6 defense. I mean, monitors aren't the greatest GW units in the world, but nonetheless, very effective at what they do, which is just bringing firepower to a fight. Then, of course, you still got the bats with a 6 fighter factor, 12 attack, 12 defense, and EW. And then, of course, the battalion ground unit with 3 attack, 3 defense, and 6 fighter factors as well as it having EW on its own. So when you look at all this combined, as far as what they've got, the Tholians, that is, what they've got in place, in position to be able to defend this location, I don't know that the ships currently in position between Vulture, Eagle, and Hawk are enough to be able to take this and hold it. They might be able to, and it would be a really lucky roll of the dice to take it, because the Tholians have such a defensive advantage with the fighters, the base, the EW. They've just got a lot of ability to absorb and or decrease the damage that's being inflicted by the Paravians. And when you look at the total compot or the combat potential of the Tholian ships versus the Paravian ships and what they can put in a battle line, the total number of attack factors that can be generated on one side or the other, the Tholians are going to be able to outperform, maybe not quite 2-to-1, but they're going to be able to outperform consistently the Tholian or the Paravian faction for many rounds before they start degrading. Whereas the Paravians, while they might have frigates and things to soak up damage, they won't be able to maintain their onslaught as long as the Tholians will, in my opinion. But we'd have to see that battle to see how that works out. Again, if the Paravians ever decide to pull the trigger and attack that particular target, it would be very interesting to see how that battle would unfold. But that's not the only target that is available. They have also this one here with 1st, 2nd, and 3rd expeditionary fleets and a bats. This one is really an easy target because these exploration fleets are just, let's pull them up and you can see what I'm talking about. Tholians, exploration fleets. So you can see that these fleets, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, so 1st, 2nd, 3rd, top 3 here, they're just a destroyer with 2 patrol craft. So they can pinwheel, because these 3 ships can pinwheel together, destroyers and patrol craft, but it's really not a lot of firepower. And if the Paravians combine their forces to attack, they could certainly attack and destroy it. What would they gain from it? Good question. I don't know that they would gain a lot, because if we take away the ships and bases, you can see there's nothing over here other than a couple of minor, just resources. The big prize here would be the developing planet. And the developing planet, notably that it's been devastated, is a potential supply point once it recovers, but at this point, not necessarily a particularly valuable target versus, let's say, a minor, medium, or major planet in the future. So if you were going to start an assault against the Tholians here, what's your end game? Where are you going to end up when it's all said and done? These are all just things to think about, or at least things I think about when I look at this stuff. What do you think? Other than that, now that we know that the Paravians have gone to peace with the Tholians, what are they planning? Well, if we take away the control zone, we know that this blue area is all territory of the Romulans. What in the world are they doing? You can see there is a YBS that's being completed here. There is a tug in position to possibly, probably, most likely build a YBS here. We have Owl Fleet up here in the corner. Let's take a look at the Paravian Owl Fleet and what is going on. We've got a light cruiser and a frigate with an R&D team. What are they doing? Well, the R&D team is most likely, if we take away bases and ships, heading to their capital. And the Romulan capital, this is particularly of note, this is the only Romulan capital hex in the map. All the other pockets of Romulan territory have a major planet, which is kind of the focal point of that piece of territory. This is the true Romulan capital in this game. So if we look at the Romulan capital, oh, that's not them. Romulan 2, there we go, Romulan 2 capital. This is what they got. They've got a home planet, which if you were to take it as a player would just become a major. Then they've got a planetary ground base and a YDK. That's all they got there. Okay. So they're sending, that is the Paravians, are sending their Owl Fleet and home fleet to this to be able to do trade back and forth. So what else are they doing? Well, this base building that they very obviously are engaged in, what's their end game? There's two potential options. The player, Jim, loves to talk about how he's going to take out the Hydrants and just wants to kill me. So he's potentially building a highway to be able to attack the Hydrants at the top here. Sure, if that's your game, float your boat, whatever you like. That could certainly work. Or they are looking to potentially get a highway to be able to attack the Gorn. The Gorn, as a faction, are notably, I should say, weak in the early eras of the game. Once they get to MTech, things start to even out a bit, and certainly in GW, it goes the other way, where the Gorn are kicking butt and taking names. So, if you're the Paravians and you see the Gorn as a potential threat, do you want to take him out now or later? Arguably now. So is he building highways or supply lines to be able to start doing that sooner rather than later? Maybe. That's a possibility. You can also see here there's another tug across the neutral zone, possibly going to build a base, and build supply lines to be able to meet the Gorn. So the Gorn are potentially a target for the Paravians. Maybe. There is another option. At least two other, and of course there's a myriad beyond that. They could be building the supply chain to be able to ally with the Gorn and work together. That's a very possible, likely outcome. If they're working together, obviously you're going to need allies in this game to win at the end of the day, because you're facing up against factions that are going to be stronger than you, bigger than you, economically more powerful, and so on. So making allies with your immediate neighbors is a very solid and sound strategy. Also, if they are building sort of connective tissue here with supply lines to the Gorn, they may choose to collaborate with the Gorn to wipe out that belt of blue and Romulan faction in between. Like we were saying before with what the ISC were doing and what had been sort of demonstrated in the New Worlds campaign with the Klingons and the Carnarvon. Build bases behind their lines, giving you supply, pre-positioning forces, and then blitzkrieg your way out and decimate the Romulans. So are they pre-positioning assets to be able to attack and destroy the Romulans and do that in collaboration with the Gorn? That's a very sound strategy, and if they were to do that, there are some very profound economic advantages that they could gain by doing that. So, is that what they're doing? Maybe. So, what do you think in the chat? Do you think that the Paravians are reaching out to get to the Hydrants? Are they reaching out to attack the Gorn? Are they allying with the Gorn to be able to work on the ROMs? Or maybe none of those things. They're just going to build out their supply network in the ROMs and try to take it all for themselves. There's so many options here, so much play and dynamic directions that can be taken. But the Paravians have certainly demonstrated, at least at this point in the game, they have a navy and they're not afraid to use it. So, what do you think? We have talked about the Gorn being in this game in the sense of they have now joined the big map. So let's zoom in a little bit here and see what their positioning is. Now, we had gone over the Gorn previously with regards to their immediate, when they were on the small map and they were having this combat with the Tholians. Now you can see there are these sort of pockets of Tholian territory at the very north end of their space, and they were having a big slugfest with the Tholians. Not necessarily winning, but definitely not allowing the Tholians to win either. It was sort of a stalemate in many ways. But what do we have here? Wow, 3 CVAs. Okay, so we've got a bats and a collection of ships. We've got heavy war cruisers, command cruisers, destroyers, and 3 of these CVAs, which are basically carriers. 12 fighter factors, 12, 16 attack and defense factors, and then, of course, the bats. So that's not a small amount of ships. We also have here a collection of ships. Wow. I don't know what the GRP is an acronym for, but that's a lot of ground bases with 3. I'm trying to think. A garrison, maybe? Oh, my goodness. So anyways, 9 attack, 9 defense, 18 attack factors with a bats, plus 3 CVAs, 1, 2, 3 war cruisers, 1, 2 cruisers, 1 command cruiser, 3 destroyers, a fighter like replenishment unit, which basically just carries the 6 fighters to replenish fighters. You got a destroyer escort, a war cruiser escort, a DNV, so that's a dreadnought with 6 fighter factors, and an FRD. This is definitely a hard point for them, like definitely a hard point. So let's just take away the ships and the bases. You can see that's a minor planet, so definitely a focal point for the Tholians in this neck of the woods. Very, very interesting. And then, of course, over here are bats with relatively 3 war cruisers at 21 attack, 21 defense. I mean, I say it's a minor amount of ships, but those 3 war cruisers and the command cruiser, that's 30 attack factor right there. That's like an entire Gorn fleet in just 4 ships. So again, because the Gorn just don't have a lot of firepower in the Y era ships. So very interesting to see as this sort of maps out. So with the Gorn arriving on the big map, now we kind of knew that they were there already, but if we zoom out and we look at the map, and I'll do one more here, and I'll move my head to the other side. So when we look at this, we see the Remans up top, the Hydrons, the Gorn, and below the Gorn, of course, the Paravians. The Gorn presenting the way they have on the map is a very interesting strategic dilemma. The Paravians, we just talked about the Paravians. Are they going to ally? Are they going to attack? Are they going to collaborate? Like, how are they going to interact with the Gorn? And all those same things, or those same issues or questions are valid for the Remans and the Hydrons as well. As of right now, we haven't heard anything from the Remans and the Hydrons as far as playing nice with each other. We'll talk about that in a moment. But certainly they've got a buffer between them, which is the Romulans and the Tholians, respectively. So there's a little bit of a buffer between those two, the green and the red. But now the Gorn are also involved, and so how is that going to play? You could argue that the top corner here could be quite the powerhouse if the Gorn, the Remans, and the Hydrons decide to get together. There's very little keeping them apart other than the Tholians, and if the 3 of them combine to attack that Tholian pocket, that would probably be the most effective use of positioning to eliminate that Tholian branch of forces in the area. And they're uniquely positioned to do that better than the Federation and the Klingons were most recently. Because they can come at different directions and they can sort of overwhelm Tholian forces just with pure numbers. The Gorn had demonstrated how effective that can be in their defense of their space from the Tholians. So those 3 factions, there's certainly a benefit if they were to work together. But what if they were not to work together? Well, the Remans and the Hydrons could certainly go toe-to-toe with each other, and they can reach out and touch each other very quickly, either through the Romulans or maybe the Romulans just become a casualty of the conflict. But they have connective tissue between them where they can reach out and touch each other if the Remans and the Hydrons want to attack. The barrier of the Tholians really present that difference. Boom! Another coffee. Let's just take a quick look. It was fired from the Reman Ministry of Peace. Ooh, Ministry of Peace, we say. Well, the RMP. RMP, blessed are you. Let's have a quick sip of our eggnog-infused coffee. Yes! Okay, we've hit our goal for today. Thank you very much, everybody. 5 coffees in the bag. Don't hold back. If you want to fire more stimulated goodness our way, the photons are still loaded and ready to fire. We want to hear those sound effects as we go. Okay, so Gorn. The Gorn in their position right now, they could, and this is sort of like the balance between the tech milestones, right? The Gorn, as they age, shall we say, or as they progress through the tech milestones, become bigger and better and badder as they go. If the 3 of these guys, the Hydrons, the Remans, and the Gorn got together because of their close proximity, and if they were able to eliminate this Tholian sort of barrier between them, then they could be very effective at leveraging that going forward. And why would they want to do that? Well, I'll use that as a bridge to be able to get into the Remans. Ironically, since they just fired their coffee, I'll do the Remans next. Because as we zoom in and slide over, the Remans have an interesting challenge ahead of them. So the Remans certainly are bordering the Hydrons. And as you can see here just above my head, there is a very small bit of connective tissue between, or a buffer, I should say, of the Romulans between Hydron and Reman space. And you can see there's a bunch of Reman ships sort of in that space there, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Hydrons. However, what do we have going on here on the western edge of Reman territory? We have a pocket of Tholian ships, but we have a concentration and an outreach of Lyran vessels. Now, there is, in this game, there's a lot of personalities involved. In fact, as I talk about this, let's go back to the main screen here, and let's discuss this before we jump in. So in this game, there's lots of personalities, and people will play either different characters or just play their own persona and go forth. So, and certainly you saw that in New Worlds, for example, there were player factions who were peaceful, wanted to get along, were kind of like, if you wronged me, I'll take you out. There were some that were duplicitous and backstabbery, and some that were more honorable and straightforward. The character personas and the motivations are going to be varied and go all over the place, but in this particular game, it has been well telegraphed. The Lyrans are going to be, and you saw it a little bit in the chat here, the Lyrans are going to be expansionist and aggressive. Expansionist and aggressive. Expansionist and aggressive. As having played an expansionist and aggressive faction in the past, there's always going to be a source of friction there. And certainly, like with any bully, you have to confront them often. You have to confront them early, bloody their nose, and stop them in their tracks. Otherwise, they will continue to encroach and sort of push into what might be your territory, your boundaries, or compromise your footprint. The Lyrans have, again, telegraphed, and we'll have to wait and see how it all happens, but they have certainly telegraphed their desire to crush, kill, and destroy, and pick fights with other players. When we go back to the map here in a second, you will see there's not a lot of options or alternative targets for the Lyrans other than the Remans. So what does that mean? Well, let's dive into the map and check it out. All right, again, we're here on the sort of the edge of Reman and Lyran space. So you can see on the edge of Lyran space here, a couple of, like, we've got these pockets of Tholian territory, and it would seem as though the Tholians are starting to pick a fight with the Tholians. No problem. That's good. From the Tholian perspective, if they're going to go to war with from the Lyran's perspective, if they're going to go to war with the Tholians, they're going to war status. Boom! Another coffee has been fired. Fired by Meow. Meow mix. Meow, 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 meow. Our Lyran player. Oh, yeah. Naughty space lynxes. Okay, so the Lyrans are potentially attacking or at war status with the Tholians. No problem, no big deal. That's fine. They'll be at war status, and what's the advantage of that? Well, when we talk about those economic numbers that we talked about at the beginning of the live stream, those numbers, you only get, in our economic structure for this game, there are 3 economic status levels or modalities. One is peacetime, and everyone is starting off at peacetime, which all that means is that you have a gross number of income that you can make, which is your economic number, and then you divide that by 2 or 50%, and that's what you actually get to spend in peacetime. At limited war, you can go to limited war status, but those are usually shorter periods of time. And when you go to limited war, you don't incur war fatigue or war turns. And basically, you can be at limited war for a total of 4 turns. And then at that point, you either have to revert to peace or go to full war status. Then there's war status. And when you're at war, and at limited war, you make 75% of your total income. Not 100, but 75. But you don't incur war turns. Then there's war status. Now, war status, we have some criteria about when you have to be at limited war, and peace. But when you go to war status, you get 100% of your income. But for every turn you're at war, you incur a war turn. And once you reach 20 war turns, you start experiencing war fatigue. And there are milestones in this. You start off at getting 75% of your income, then 50% of your income, then 30% of your income. And there are happiness penalties you start encountering as you go as well. So war status and being at war for prolonged periods of time can have very negative impacts on your economy. That being said, if you're being like the Khan and the Mongols are raiding across the territory, perhaps the speed at which you're conquering territory makes it worthwhile to do that. Who knows? But for each war turn that you earn or take on, you have to spend 2 turns to burn it. So 2 turns to recover for every war turn accumulated. All that means is that there is an economic price to pay for being at war. You get the benefit up front. You have to pay for it on the back end. The Lyrans against the Tholians, if they are at war status now, are benefiting from 100% of their income. Great. They are then being able to build ships and potentially attack and destroy and eliminate the Tholian threat. No problem. Will they then continue to attack the Remans? Maybe. Will they wait and recover their war turns and set themselves up to be able to attack the Remans? Because right now on this map, based on what we're looking at, they're the only 2 factions that the Remans are the only faction the Lyrans can touch. So at some point, there's going to be a fight based on the telegraphing at this point. Who knows? Who knows? Things can change. But this is what that's looking like. Not to mention the great unknown of what's in this big gray space under here, which we predict is the Carnivon. But there's a lot of Tholian pockets in and around this area as well. Maybe there's a big Tholian pocket here that they may have to deal with. Also, the Lyrans have a big Romulan pocket here that they could potentially, if they were so inclined, attack and destroy. I don't know. We'll have to see. There's definitely some Lyran ships down here, so we'll have to see how that's all working out. It would seem as though, based on the disposition of Lyran units in Romulan space, that they are backing up the Romulans and helping them defend against Tholian attacks, much like the Federation and the Klingons, and we'll talk about them in a moment. So anyways, all that to say, the Lyran-Reman potential tensions are going to play out in the top right corner of the map on how the Remans, the Hydrons, and the Gorn decide to get along. And the popping up of the Gorn in now the big map is going to dramatically change how that all works out. That's my whole point here, is that the Gorn and their introduction on the big map has dramatically shifted the focus of what's going on. If the Remans decide to attack the Tholians, attack the Romulans, attack the Hydrons, they need to balance out their war turns because they have to be cognizant and aware of how the Lyrans are going to play out. And the Lyrans the same way, about how they're going to play out versus the Remans. And, are they attacking the Tholians? And how that's all going to interact. There's only so much gas you have in the tank when it comes to war turns. How are you going to budget and spend that appropriately so that you don't put yourself in a really vulnerable position for another player to take advantage of at some point in the future? It's all going to play out very interestingly, so we'll see how that goes. So let's zoom in on the Remans and see what they're doing. Okay, now we know the Remans are the top 3 economy in the game, and they have some of the biggest military forces as well. I'm going to take away the control zones just to make it a little bit easier to see stuff. So we can see that on their western edge, we talked about that before, that they are getting close to interacting with the Lyrans. You can see that the Lyrans, if we take away the ships real quick, you can see the Lyrans have bases and bases under construction within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexes. 6 hexes of Reman bases under construction right now. Now, granted, there's a big Tholian pocket in between, but that being said, if the Remans build out bases and a fortified line, and the Lyrans build out bases and a fortified line, at some point they're going to meet. What's that going to look like? It would, and if they're competing for recouping or taking Tholian assets, how is that going to play out? I don't know. It's all things to think about, all dynamics to play. But let's look at this interaction right here. So it might be a little hard to see. I'm going to bring back the ships. We can see here that there is a collection of Reman ships in the light blue space. We have the auxiliary fleet building a YBS in Romulan territory. We have First Auxiliary Fleet here and Pacific Fleet, or Pacifica and Athena. So 2 4 deployed Reman fleets, and bases being built inside Romulan territory. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at Athena and Pacifica and see what we're talking about here. Athena, which is the bottom one, and Pacifica, I'll actually move that above there we go. We'll put that there. And Reman, Pacifica, boom. We'll put that on top. So Pacifica is right here. And you can see that it has a command cruiser, a 4-6. And then you've got 4 cruisers, again 4-6, so a total of 5 cruisers. And then you've got 8 of these destroyers, which, to be honest, the Remans and the Klingons have the best destroyer in the game in the Y era. 3-4 ship. It's fantastic. They can build a ton of them. It's a great ship, and it's cheap to build. And I think it's relatively inexpensive to repair. No, it's a full 2-point repair. Or is it? Hold on. I am flipping this. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay. So what's going on here? I feel like there is a mix of ships here. Oh, no. Okay, there are 3 2s. There are 3 attacked. Oh, my mistake. I am thinking of these as being the Klingons 3-4. These are effectively... Yeah, these are 3-2 ships, which is not quite as good as I thought. But there are 3 attack, 2 defense ships. There's 8 of them, and then there's another sort of Y era frigate here, which is a 3 attack. So minor, like small ships designed to be able to soak up damage along with these two fleets, and a large amount of cruisers. 5 total cruisers, 1 command, 4 regular heavy cruisers in this fleet. In the one below, which is Athena, you've got, this is the ship that I was thinking of, the K4+, which is, because I'm looking at The KF4 Plus, I'm looking at it right here. It's the same counter. You'll notice it says 3.2 versus 3.4. I think that's where my confusion is. It's the same counter, but it's a different unit. I am confused. Oh, okay. This must be a bug. Yeah, this must be a bug. Okay, because yeah, the K4 Plus is a 3 attack, 4 defense. It is the same as the destroyer for the Klingons. Yeah, so this is obviously just some kind of bug with Vassal as of right now. So now it's presenting or showing the correct number. So it's a 1 point repair, which is huge because it means you can quickly repair this ship and get it back on the line. It's a 4 defense ship and 3 attack, which is, some people have a heavy cruiser that only has 3 attack. So it's got a good attack, it's got a good defense, and it's cheap to repair. So this is a great ship, the KF4 Plus. Yeah, okay, so that's good. That's what I was talking about. So then you look down at Athena Fleet, and it also has a bunch of these, 5 of those awesome destroyers, a couple of these beefed up frigates, and then another 4 cruisers and a command cruiser. So combine all those two, that's a total of 10 cruisers, a total of 8 plus 5, 13 destroyers, and then 4 of these frigates. That's a lot of stuff. And from the Hydran perspective, right on the border. It seems unusual to move that many ships into this space. Are the Remans pre-positioning for an attack? If the Remans have a really good relationship with the non-player faction Romulans, it wouldn't be unheard of to think that. They saw that the Hydrans had an initial encounter with the Romulans. There was a little bit of conflict as the Hydrans beat up on the Romulans, and now the Remans are introducing ships into Romulan space. So there's a couple options here. One, they're pre-positioning to attack the Hydrans. Maybe. They are pre-positioning to be able to take Romulan space because they saw the Hydrans were able to do that as well. Maybe. Either way, a bunch of very potent and capable ships moving into Romulan space and positioning themselves within striking distance of Hydran assets is concerning. In addition, we have, if you look a little further back, we got Prometheus and Triton fleets in the background here. Let's just check what these guys are. We've got Prometheus, which is the one up here, right next to that. And then you've got Triton fleet, and we'll pull up Triton fleet, and that's a little bit lower. So Prometheus is a bunch of these destroyers. There's 5 of them. 1 cruiser, 1 command cruiser, and a frigate. And then the one below Triton fleet is a cruiser, 2 frigates, and 2 other less impressive frigates. So it seems as though they're forward deploying a bunch of their strong assets. Oh, and there's also Columbia fleet here. Let's take a look at Columbia fleet. So Columbia fleet right here is also a big fleet. It has not 1 but 2 dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts, the most powerful ship that they have. Command factor of 10. It has a command cruiser. It has 3 cruisers. And then another 5 of these destroyers. So this is not a small fleet. This is big. So they've pre-positioned 3 war fleets within striking, two war fleets within striking distance of Hydran territory. Pre-positioned another one that looks like if you were to telegraph what's happening here, they're going to move into Romulan space. So either they're preparing to wipe out the Romulans before the Hydrans can, or they're going to say, screw that, we're just going to go after the Hydrans and attack them. Well, that'll be interesting one way or another to see how that breaks down. But as you can see, as per the thumbnail, the calm before the storm. There are clouds gathering on the horizon. We talked about the Paravians down below and what they're planning and setting up. The Remans very obviously are doing something in that respect. If we look at the Hydrans here, if I take away the ships real quick, you can see that there are 3 bases being built in this turn, in addition to the 4 YDKs in that area. So all of a sudden, bases are being built very quickly. perhaps in response to the buildup of forces from the Remans. In addition to, and bringing back the ships, in addition to that, we still have Hydran First Fleet, which is in the area. So if we pull up Hydran First Fleet, you can see, a little harder to see here. So Hydran First Fleet is a total of 9 command cruisers. So 9 command cruisers at 4-6. A little bit more punch than Athena Fleet, but there's only one of those fleets. We got second and third fleet in the back row here, not in a position to be able to necessarily attack or defend these bases under construction, but you can bet your bottom dollar that there'll be a counterpunch if and when the Hydrants get attacked. So we got second and third fleet here. Hydran, second and third fleet. These were the fleets that were used to be able to conduct the attacks against Romulan territory. So we'll go third fleet. So third fleet. So as far as positioning goes, again, this one is where first fleet is. Second fleet is the one up here, and third fleet is the one right there. So we got a command cruiser with a total of 7 destroyers. Now frigates. The frigates are really the best unit between destroyers and frigates for the Hydrans. Most cost effective because the destroyers are 2-4 versus the 2-3 for the frigate, and we can build many more frigates. So, and then we have 2 command cruisers in third fleet with a boatload of frigates as well. So very interesting to note the disposition of forces and how that's sort of being gathered there. And then, of course, all the ships being forward deployed into Romulan space. The calm before the storm. What kind of storm are we looking at? Are we looking at green and red going at each other? Very festive. Are they going to squish blue? Or is red going to squish blue and green's going to have to react? I don't know. Like what is going on here? It's a little unclear. As we talked about with the Gorn, they've just shown up on the big screen. What's going to happen with them with regards to the Tholians? We've already talked about how the Paravians are dealing with. The Paravians are forward deploying or building bases and logistics into Romulan space. What are they planning? Again, the eastern edge of the map, a lot of potential turmoil going on there. But that's not the only thing. Let's go over and talk about, and I'll take away the supply menu because Federation 2 supply. So let's talk about the Feds. So this is the Federation, the alternative Federation faction for us. So they're orange, not blue. And you can see here that they've got a couple of key issues at play. They are very obviously in conflict with the Tholians. And you have small concentrations of Tholian hardpoints in and around the area. So you've got this destroyer along with escorts. Boom! Someone just fired a coffee. Hoorah! Let's have a quick sip. More coffee firing our way. 144% of goal. Interesting. That's a very strange number, 144%. Okay. Where were we here? Right. Okay, so we've got these we've got the bats. We've got a ground base, 9 attack and defense, 18 fighter factors. This is a hard point, along with 3 destroyers and escorts for the carrier. And there's a carrier there, CMV, with 6 fighter factors and 7 attack, 7 defense. If we take away the ships real quick, I'll take away the bases too. You can see there's a medium planet here, so a very juicy target if I were the Federation. But certainly lots of Tholian ships getting in the way. What do they have in the area? Not a lot. They've got expeditionary and auxiliary fleets, no battle fleets in the area. Excuse me. All the battle fleets tend to be down in this neck of the woods in the blue. Also in the north, we've got patrol craft, carriers, escorts, bats, basically the same thing we just saw over on the far left or west we see in the north. So both Tholians in the west and in the north. If we go to the east, which is this sort of incursion into Romulan territory, we have a bunch of Federation bases built into Romulan territory. Obviously, it would seem that they're looking to defend and bolster Romulan positions, but you can see here that they've got, the Tholians that is, have a number of units fortifying various bases that they've built or have in the area. Romulan Romulan forces are backing up and Federation forces are supporting. Let's see. Federation to Fed to Second Fleet. Battle fleets? No. Second Fleet. Federation to numbered fleets. Okay, here we are. Whoa! Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so Second Fleet is this one right here. And you can see here there's a base being built where Second Fleet is. And there is a YCC, a total of 4 YCAs. We have 11 YCLs. Great ship. Incidentally, you build a lot of YCLs as the Federation. When you go to MTech, you can upgrade those YCLs to M-era CLs, which are a 5.5 ship, and they are fantastic. You got a YDD here, also 3.5. And you've got 19 frigates along with a commando cruiser as well. So that's quite a good fleet for the Federation. And certainly in the Y area, that is going to kick butt and take names. Will it be enough to be able to take this base? I think so. Question is, there is a 4th garrison in the background. What is the 4th garrison going to say about that? Tholian garrisons, I'll put them behind the Feds here. 4th garrison, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see it is a command cruiser, 4 war cruisers, 2 destroyers, Black Widows, which are like little mini carriers, and then a scout. So this combination of ships in the 4th garrison, along with either this star base. Oh my God, let me move this out of the way. This is a, it's not a star base, but it is a very hard point. 12 attack, 24 defense, along with a regiment defending it. A regiment being 2 ground bases with 6 attack, 6 defense, and 12 fighter factors. Let's take away the bases and the ships. You can see they're defending a minor planet, which is a good hard point for the Tholians. So you've got this bats right here, which if you were to attack it, 4th garrison can move forward and potentially counterpunch. Yeah, that's gonna be good. 3rd Fleet, important to note here, just a little bit further back. 3rd Fleet is also, well, a command cruiser, light cruiser, a hospital ship, a couple prime teams, and a YCM. So really, it's all in Second Fleet's hands whether they can hold the line when it comes to any Tholian counterattack or attack in that area. As we go further south here, you can see that there's a combination of Federation and Klingon effort to be able to hold back the line or the onslaught of Tholian units. It would seem, if I'm looking at this right, Tholians are relatively light against the Federation, either because they've already attacked and destroyed, there's been a lot of back and forth. But if I look further south here, the stacks of Tholian ships are really adding up. Like, look at this. Command cruiser, 2 cruisers, 3 war cruisers, 3 destroyers, along with a mobile base that they're setting up. This one's got a dreadnought, 3 DDs, scout, 3 war cruisers, 3 CVAs, which are like carriers. Got 2 destroyer escorts, a war cruiser escort, FRD, a monitor, and a bats. There's a lot there to be able to hold this particular hard point. How many Klingon ships are there to be able to potentially defend it? I don't know. It's hard to see that there's a lot of Klingon ships in this area. As we scroll down, talking about the Federation and the Klingons working together to be able to protect the Romulans, what I see here is looks like a concentration of Klingon ships really in the west to be able to deal with this business here. That is a true starbase at a 36 attack and defense, 12 fighter factors, and obviously EW. What do we got here? We've got 2nd Auxiliary, 3rd Log, Patrol, and Expeditionary. Oh my goodness, let's pull up this Klingon. These fleets are getting out of hand. Okay, logistics fleets and auxiliary. So auxiliary fleets is basically a tug and a destroyer escort or frigate escort. So that's what is here. 2nd Auxiliary Fleet is a tug and an escort. You've got 3rd Logistics Fleet. So Klingon Logistics. Again, not much here. So you've got nothing here. There's no major fleets here, unless I'm not seeing something. It looks as if the Tholians so decided, they could just roll in and crush, kill, and destroy the Klingon assets in the area. Now, the Tholians seem to be defending their territory more than anything else, but you can see based on the footprint where the units are positioned and how that's working out. In the south, it looks a little bit more, in the southern border that is, it looks a little bit more in the advantage of the Klingons. We've got Northern Fleet and Apocalypse. So let's pull those up. Klingon North Fleet. Is it Duras? No. North Fleet. Here we are. So we've got North Fleet here. And then Apocalypse. So Klingon Apocalypse. Apocalypse. That'll be... is it Apocalypse? No. Duras. Kempek. Martok. There we are. Battle Group Apocalypse. Okay. So you can see here, North Fleet is right here. And it's sitting... I'll just move this out of the way. You can see that it's sitting on a YBS, and Apocalypse is also sitting on a YBS. So we got two bases that these fleets are sitting on. North Fleet has a command cruiser, a cruiser, 2 destroyers, which again, those 3-4 ships that I love so much. And then you've got 8 frigates. With the Apocalypse, you've got a C4, which is their dreadnought, which is a great ship, a command cruiser, 3 cruisers, and 6 destroyers with an E2. I don't know what this VDI is. Can I get an assist here from our GM and other folks in the chat? What is the VDI? I've never seen that before as a counter. So give me a little input on what a VDI is. So you've got those 2 fleets sitting there on top of, and could very much take, I would argue those 2 fleets have more than enough to be able to take the Bats, the battalion, and the 2 war cruisers along with a heavy war cruiser. It would be a bloody battle, but I think they could do it. Personally, I would want a YDK in the area before doing that so I can repair my ships quickly, because there will most certainly be a counterattack. But that's what I would see. Further south, we've got the Tholian Border Squadron. Klingon Tholian Border Squadron, which you can see is a relatively minor fleet, a command cruiser, 2 destroyers, and a frigate, so nothing too much. We've got Red and South Fleet and Vindicator Fleet ready to attack. So let's see, Klingon Red Fleet, that's a Duras thing. Vindicator is also Duras. And what was the other one here? South Fleet. Klingon South Fleet. Okay. So South Fleet on the bottom. We'll put red here. And we'll do this. Okay. So Vindicator, which is at the top here, right by this YBS that's being built. You've got 2 cruisers, 2 destroyers, and a frigate and a prime team. Red and South Fleet combined, you've got 2 command cruisers, a cruiser, 3 destroyers, and 5 destroyers, so a total of 8, plus 2 frigates. So you've got a collection of ships enough to be able to definitely, I would argue it would be a tight fight, possibly take it, between the battalion, the Bats, and the patrol craft and destroyer. The issue is as far as like why Tony would you say that the Tholians would be able to hold off? 2 things. 1, the PCs and the DD can pinwheel, which makes it a harder target, and you've got 12 fighter factors in that battle along with an EW advantage. So 12 fighter factors in addition to the Bats, which is already a 12-12 ship, that's 24, plus the 3 from the ground base, that's 27. And then you would include the attack factors of the patrol craft and the destroyer, so that would be a total of 8. So 27, that's 35 attack factor. But then you include the defense factor of all those units. So the fighters will be able to soak damage at 12. The Bats can take SIDS before getting crippled. And then the pinwheeled ships can take 50% more damage. So that's 14. That'd be 21 defense factors versus plus 24 or plus 27. So that would be 51 defense factors you would have to plow through before you would be able to take them out completely. And the defender gets to distribute the damage as per. If I was the defender, I would pinwheel the PC and the DD, allow them to take all the damage before the bats or the battle state or the battalion, because that's how I would play that. Because the fighters, or maybe take the fighters first and then go from there. But either way, there's a lot of damage you would have to unload on the Tholian target before you were able to take it, and that would be definitely challenging. Okay, that's a lot of talking. Let's do a quick recap. I'll zoom out. We've talked about the Klingons. We've talked about the Federation and their battle with the Tholians. Now, I will say, before I move on from those two, I received the following message this morning. Stand by. The message reads, as you prepare for today's show, pay attention to the fleet cap of the various empires. It looks like some at peace will soon be paying for oversized navies. The Klingon-Tholian War has just ended. The Tholians agreed to remove their control markers from the areas of space that were unmarked before Klingon bases were built. Economists believe that the Klingon unemployment rate will increase next season, but those unemployed will be alive. The tribal invasion on the planet in Sector 1974 has been eradicated, and the planet has recovered from its devastation caused by the vermin. So 1974, let's zoom in real quick and see if I can see this planet of which he makes reference. All right, sliding over, 1974. Boom, right here. So this planet, this developing planet, I guess, had a tribal infestation. It has been known to happen with Klingons, their love for all things furry. So as you heard, the Tholian War with the Klingons and Federation, I'm assuming, has ended, and there shall be peace in our time in the southwestern corner of the galaxy. So their conflict has ended, and the tide is ebbing. But in the north and the northwest, the clouds are gathering, the storm surge is coming, and there is the potential for conflict. All right, so you've seen it, you've heard it. There is a lot of dynamic stuff going on this map. What do you think about the current disposition of the Paravians reaching into Romulan space? The Gorn popping up the way they have, and where they're at. They had a long conflict, a reasonably long conflict, with the Tholians battling over territory in space. I don't know where they're at reasonably when it comes to their economy, so whether they're recovering from war turns or what have you, but where do you think they're going to fit into this dynamic? Are they going to pair up with the Paravians and reap some benefit from taking out that Romulan blue blob underneath them, or between the Paravians and the Gorn? Will they collaborate with the Remans and or the Hydrans to be able to take out the Tholians in between them? Will the Hydrans and the Remans go toe-to-toe? It certainly seems like something's brewing on their border. Not to mention the Remans and the Lyrans, of which there is something certainly potentially being set up to brew on their western border. Seems as though things are calming down in the southwest between the Feds, the Klingons, and the Tholians. Let's just see how this goes. Federation Vulcan Scout Ship, VDI, is a Federation Vulcan Scout Ship, Eugene says. Huh. Interesting. Okay. All right. Klingons and Federation working together. What is this undiscovered country shenanigans, Lord Lala says. Yep, totally true. I couldn't agree more. Let's see. Let's go back to last coffee. We've got Chuck saying orange. What feds are those? You can't be petty, says the Mirror Universe. Flavor, normal, Vulcan. Vulcan? Jim says. The Terran Empire, Chuck says. Yes. No other oxymoron, decent... What? Another oxymoron, decent Federation ship. Well, we know where Chuck stands on all this. Vulcan Scout traded to the Klingons, hence the VDI we were just talking about. Of course. Lord Lawless, Klingon, and Federation working together. But what has this undiscovered country? What is this undiscovered country shenanigans? Absolutely. And of course, Lon Jerome saying, it's just halftime, LOL. All right. Well, we've certainly got quite a story that's being told here and how things are evolving. What are your thoughts? Put them in the comments below. You've been able to track along nearly to the 1 minute and 40-minute mark of this live stream. If you are lasting this long, then please put in 1H440M and I will put a comment on your comment about where you think things are going in this game. I want to thank you all for today. We've had a concurrent viewership of over 20 for most of this broadcast, so that's fantastic. Thank you, everybody. I see 16 likes out of those 23 viewers, so please feel free to hit the thumbs up button, tickle the YouTube algorithm the right way, and if you have been watching this long, then please consider to be like Bashar Lulu and hit the subscribe button and join us here as part of the Star Trek New Worlds community. And if you want to partake in the banter, the back and forth, and the chitter chat, then you can also join us at coffee.com /New Worlds at the Coffee and Discord tier. And you can join us on our Discord channel where we will be going to after this live stream. Again, to talk, to bitter banter, and to discuss all the things I've discussed today in the show, whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong, and what people think about it one way or the other. I am looking forward to our next live stream, which will be next Saturday, and in between Christmas and New Year's. And we'll discuss what's happening in our other campaign, New Horizons. All right. With that said, thank you very much, everybody. I will see you next week. Happy holidays, everybody. Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you are celebrating. I hope you have a wonderful, peaceful, enjoyable, and amazing holiday between now and our next live stream. Ciao for now, and I'll see you soon.